Every freestyle rapper wants to get big reactions from their audience. We want people to freak out when we drop our punchlines, like jump out of their chair and grab their head and start swinging their arms around. Punchlines are the part of rap that make people give big reactions. So if you aren't getting big reactions when you freestyle rap, or if you want to find out how to get people to give you big reactions when you freestyle, then you have to work on your punchlines, because if people aren't reacting in a big way when you freestyle rap, it's usually because your punchlines are whack or they're just not hitting hard enough. So if you want to spit freestyle raps that blow people's minds, then you have to master the 5 levels of wordplay. So today I'm going to show you how you can move up the 5 levels of wordplay from complete beginner to nasty master of punchlines in just 5 minutes a day. And for today's 5 minutes a day exercise, we're going to be using the rhyme game because it can generate pairs of random rhyming words, which is important because then our brain doesn't have to worry about coming up with rhymes, so we can put 100% of our brain energy into our punchlines. Right, wordplay level 1 is nonsense. So what I mean by that is the hardest thing for most beginners to do in freestyle rap is just to open their mouth and say anything on a beat, which is crazy. You can say anything at all, even complete nonsense, and you've already leveled up from where you were before if you have not tried freestyle rapping yet. Coming over to the rhyme game, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go to the settings of the random word generator, and we are going to show one random word with one rhyme per random words. Check it out. I make a pair of random rhymes, tracked and packed. I'm just gonna say complete nonsense between them. My name is Big Al, tracked, I'm in the booth, packed. Or it could be nonsense, meaning like not even words at all. Let me bring up some more words. Blind and grind. Zoobity doobity bop, blind, beep bop, bibbity bop, grind. Whatever it is, even if it's complete nonsense, you're now working on like making sounds on a beat ahead of a word. Wordplay number 2, leveling up from nonsense, is making sense. So saying something that actually makes logical sense on the beat. But a lot of times when we get to that second level of wordplay where we start making sense on a beat, what we're doing is using filler phrases. So filler phrases are kind of like generic sentences that can fit with almost any word. So I'll give you an example. One example of a filler phrase is every time I rhyme. So if I say every time I rhyme, I can kind of say anything after that and it'll make sense. So I could say every time I rhyme, I'm glad. Every time I rhyme, I'm mad. Every time I rhyme, I'm in flux. Every time I rhyme, it's the crux. So it's making sense, like from a logical, grammatical standpoint, it makes sense. But it is a filler phrase. Some more examples of filler phrases would be like, when I'm on the mic, when I'm in the booth, everybody knows. There's all sorts of filler phrases that basically can fit with any word coming after. So what you're gonna wanna do when you get to level 2 of wordplay is just practice making wordplay that makes sense. And you're gonna find that a lot of it keeps repeating itself. This is what makes level 2 very easy to get to. Once you get the courage to conquer level 1 and just say nonsense on a beat, you're gonna start finding some phrases that fit over and over and over again that you can keep reusing. Let's say I do like when I'm on the mic. When I'm on the mic, I'm in the hive. When I'm on the mic, I might be out on a drive. I could just say anything after that and it makes sense. And as I said before, you can do this exercise for 5 minutes a day and you're gonna be amazed at how fast you level up from wordplay level 1 to 2, 3, 4, and 5 if you just put the rhyme game on, generate some random pairs of words, and just say anything over it for 5 minutes a day. Come back tomorrow and try to do it a little bit better. All right, level 3 of wordplay is self-referential rhetoric. Now we're gonna be graduating from the point of filler phrases to the point where we're really gonna start sounding a lot more like a rapper. So at level 3, we wanna do what I call self-referential rhetoric. And that's basically saying a sentence that wouldn't make sense if it didn't end with the word you're ending with. So I'll generate another pair of rhymes. Card and lard. Okay, so if I were saying, I'm at the casino betting a lot on my card, that makes sense. That's a grammatical, sensible statement. Casinos have playing cards, right? It all adds up, but I couldn't necessarily say a different word. Like, what if the word was like street sign? And I said, I'm at the casino playing a street sign? It wouldn't make sense. The only way that the first half of that sentence makes sense is for that second half to actually have a word that has to do with casinos, like card. If I say like, I'm so lazy today, I'm feeling like lard. That makes a lot of sense, right? Because we use lard a lot to describe things that are slow and lazy. So it's like, that first half of that sentence wouldn't make sense if I said, I feel so lazy today, I'm very excited. Like, that wouldn't really add up. Self-referential rhetoric is rhetoric that really proves to people that you must be freestyle rapping. This must be off the top of the brain, because otherwise, how would he be making sense of all this? Self-referential rhetoric is almost like that next level of making sense. Wordplay level 4, and this is where you're really starting to sound nasty at freestyle rap. And you're gonna start to get huge reactions from people who freak out when you drop these. Level 4 is double meanings. So there's a few different kinds of double meanings. The first would be a simile. That's when you say something is as blank, or it is like blank. You might say, I'm on the mic, I'm as cold as ice. I'm comparing myself to ice, saying I'm as cold as ice. I'm hot like fire. I'm cool like the breeze. You're using the word like or as to attach two different thoughts into one. Another type of double meaning would be a metaphor. That's when you're skipping the like or the as, you're just saying you are something. So bars are so hot, the mic will catch fire. Or I'm so hot, I'm on fire. I'm kind of being imaginary with that, right? I'm saying like, I am this other thing. And the reason why double meanings are so big and why level 4 is like this huge moment where people start reacting huge to your raps is because double meanings give your audience more to think about. See, self-referential rhetoric at level 3 is what makes your audience start going like, whoa, wait a minute, this person's really going off the top of their head right now. This is impressive. But level 4 with double meanings is where you're dropping a punchline and it has two different meanings at once. So the audience hears the obvious meaning of your punchline right away, and then half a second after they go, oh, and they realize the second meaning. So let's get into the next level. This is almost like level 4.5 would be double entendres and wordplay. So these are harder than similes and metaphors. Double entendre is where you say a phrase or a word that literally means two things at once. So a great example of this was a couple weeks ago, we were in a cypher with Throwed Genji, and he dropped this line. He said, I make the booth like a Walmart, got something in store for you. That was hilarious use of wordplay because obviously like Walmart is a store. They have things in the store for you. And Genji's basically saying like, there's more to come. There's more cool bars and cool punchlines from me. I've got more in store for you. But what's really awesome about this double entendre is how got something in store for you just makes total sense at first. So your brain is kind of like, all right. And then it's like, just half a second later, you go like, whoa, wait a minute. And you start putting together the different connections. So that's two meanings at once. And the last one would be wordplay. So the last kind of double meaning is basically where you're actually messing around with the shape or the spelling or pronunciation of words. You're kind of making like a joke about how a word is literally constructed. The most famous probably example of literal wordplay would be when Lil Wayne said, real G's move in silence like lasagna, because lasagna has a silent G in it, but you kind of have to go backwards as an audience member to make sense of it. So that's the fun of these different levels of wordplay. You know, you get to the point where you make sense, people can follow along, you have context, they're riding the beat with you. Then you get to the point of self-referential rhetoric where they're going back on each line and thinking, wait a minute, you're really making this up off the top. This is really making a lot of sense. You get to the point of double meanings, especially double entendres and metaphors, and then they're going back a bar or two ago and going, wait a minute, did he just say that? Did they just say this? Did they just say that? So that's when people really start freaking out. And now let's get on to wordplay level 5, which is storytelling. Telling a story, painting a picture, taking someone along for a ride that is longer than just one bar or one couplet is ultimately the final form of what you want to be doing in lyrical music making. So here's a caveat though with storytelling is that storytelling can kind of actually secretly happen at all phases. So even when you're in the nonsense phase, you can still tell a story. You know, you could say like, I'm in the car, honk honk, went to work, bibbity bop. Like I still tell a story. But the thing that really unlocks the amazingness of storytelling is when you can combine it with the earlier levels of wordplay. So if you can tell a story that is compelling, that's one thing, it's interesting. But when you can tell a story using clever wordplay punchline tactics like level 4 and level 3 head, that's when people will really go crazy, because finding new ways to tell a story is ultimately what really makes your music interesting to listen to. That's why some of the best uses of wordplay from people like Lil Wayne and Eminem and Jay-Z, those guys are essentially telling the same stories now that they were telling 20 years ago, but they're still interesting to listen to because of their use of similes, metaphors, double entendres, wordplay, and all sorts of other punchline tricks. So ultimately, when I say level 5 is storytelling, I don't mean that storytelling is the hardest thing to do in rap. I just mean that storytelling is the greatest tool that you could do to elicit big audience reactions when you're using the other levels of wordplay. And so as I said before, I'll do this even at level 3, level 4, level 5. I'm generating a couple words and I'm just going through it as I try to make higher and higher levels of wordplay, repeating this exercise 5 minutes a day, trying my best to reach the next level of punchlines. So am I self-referential? Am I using a double meaning? Am I telling a story, you know? But one thing to remember before I let you go is that it is not about skills that make people love your music. It is so hard for new musicians to notice this, but it is not about your skills, it is about your energy. When you're freestyle rapping for people, things like self-referential rhetoric and metaphors and double entendres, those will get bigger reactions, but the number one thing that helps you get the biggest reactions and makes the crowd love you the most is when you bring the energy. Put a good expression on your face, bring the energy, bring the mood, bring the vibe, and if you're bringing the energy, then you can even spit nonsense and still get huge reactions. I would highly recommend people go check out a guy like Mark Ribier, who could say absolute nonsense and have the crowd going nuts because he's bringing the energy. So above all these 5 skills, always remember, bring the energy, that's most important. And like always, be creative and have fun.